Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and finally getting this video uploaded. I've been promising everyone on social media all day today, and it is literally taking me all day to get this video edited and uploaded. So I am using the brand new, just released, like very late last night, early this morning, Simon Says Stamp, a neat and tangled collaboration set that I just showed in my last video, the haul video I did. This is the Nuts About You stamp set, and as I'm doing this voiceover, it has sold out as a combo set and as a stamp set. I'm really hoping that even though these are limited edition, that Simon Says Stamp will restock it because it is the most adorable set ever. So fingers crossed, keep checking. Hopefully it will get restocked. So what I did was I inked up the images I wanted to use with Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And then I'm stamping it onto some craft cardstock. And then I'm using my Polychromos colored pencils to color in these images, leaving some of the areas blank. I'm not doing any real layering of colors. I do it at the end with the squirrel, but for most of these, I'm just using one color. And then I'm going to use my artist grade odorless mineral spirits to blend these out. I've mentioned in previous videos that this can be done with these. This was made kind of most popular with the Prismacolor pencils, which are wax-based. Polychromos pencils are oil-based, so they are slightly different, but they do work similarly with these artist grade odorless mineral spirits, as you can see here. I'm just picking up the odorless grade mineral spirits, OMS, with a stump, and then rubbing it against the colored pencil. You can see it kind of still breaks down like the oils in the pencil and then moves the color around a bit. I will have a video linked at the very end of this one that talks about this little jar I've got. It's just a jar with a sponge that I've poured the Gamsol into. Gamsol is just a brand name of odorless mineral spirits. And I'll also have a link to another video I did without any, I just did straight coloring with these pencils. So whatever floats your boat, you can use any type of colored pencil for a technique like this. They all just vary in color intensity and whatnot when you're getting into like artist grade and whatever, but anything will work. So you can use whatever you've got. So I basically worked all the same colors at once just to make my life easier. So I did all of the dark brown areas, so the tops of the acorns first, and then I used a lighter brown for the bases of the acorns here, or the nut. I will have a picture on my blog post as well. I did list all the colors I use for those that are interested. I have, I'm someone that has all the colors. But for people that want to get, individual ones or want to find similar colors with different brands, yeah, I do list them on my blog in one of the pictures. So I'll have that linked below the video. So I did all this, and the thing with this too is it's always fun to try this out on different colors of cardstock. So here I'm doing craft instead of on white. You get a completely different look than you would coloring on white cardstock and blending everything out. So I just thought with this sort of an image and with a fall theme card, it would look really fun with the craft. And on this main large image here, I colored mostly around the edges. I wanted the center area to be lighter so that the sentiment stood out a bit more. And then I did go back and add a bit more colored pencil over it. So that's some fun thing you can do when you're blending with these and using the odorless mineral spirits, is you can blend it out and then go back and add more color, no problem. I find it takes, I've never yet got to the point where I end up like rubbing pilling my cardstock or tearing it or anything like that, because these OMS, they evaporate so quickly. And I cannot stress this enough. I've said this in other videos. Make sure it's artist grade, not straight up paint thinner. That you don't want to be using that. You're inhaling fumes that you do not want to be messing around with. So I did all of that, and then I went on to my squirrel, and I did him in more sort of red colors, and then used a lighter kind of a flesh shade for the little stripe on his tail and for his little tummy, adding a little bit more. And then this was the one I ended up going back, and I'm going to add a little bit more color to him in a minute. But for the leaf, I did just some yellow and some green, and then I added that same brown that I used just for the tops of all of these acorns, and then just blended it together with my stump. Between colors, I'm just sanding off my stump. I did that off camera. I didn't realize I wasn't in the frame, but I just sand off the colors. So I used one blending stump for all these images, just to save time and effort. You don't need to have a ton of supplies or a bunch of different size stumps. I just use one and just sanded off the color. You can use an old nail file. The kit I usually link to in the supplies that has a little bottle of Gamsol and everything else does come with a little pack of sanding papers and that work. So this is where I go back and I'm going to add just a deeper kind of orangey red color to my little squirrel. I was thinking kind of a fox almost, but still squirrel-ish. I just wanted to deepen the color to make him stand out a little bit more amongst all of the browns of the acorns here. So I went in and added a little bit more color, and then you can see as it dries, because it always looks weirder when the odorless mineral spirits are wet on here, and then when it dries you can actually see the color. And then my favorite thing to do when I'm coloring on craft is to add white highlights, because the white just pops. So I just added some Copic opaque white to an acrylic block, and I'm picking it up with a paintbrush. This little jar does come, like the handle does have its own little really fine tip brush. I don't like using it. It drives me insane. So I prefer the control of having my own brush. So I just dipped the brush in water first to get it wet, and then I'm just picking up this opaque white and just painting on. I painted on some highlights. I added a little bit of definition here and there to the squirrel's fur and around the nuts, and it just makes everything pop and gives it that extra dimension. And I can't say how much I absolutely love this on craft. You know, when you color in white, it'll still show up really nicely, but on craft, it just pops. So once I had done all of that, I let that sit and dry, which didn't take very long because I applied it really thinly. And once it was all dry, I took the coordinating dies and I'm going to tape them into place with some micropore tape so that these do not move when I run them through my die cut machine. So there's dies for all the images in this set, and I just taped them into place and then ran them through my Big Shot machine. And then I'm going to remove the largest image, and then I'm just going to keep moving these dies around so I can cut out all of the other smaller images that I'd stamped so many times. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to start die cutting the rest of the elements for my card. So I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Basic Rectangles dies, as well as the MFT, what were those called? Mini Stitch Scallop Rectangles. I had those out from the last card I made, or set of cards that I made, and hadn't put them away yet. So I just, convenience. So I pulled those out and started using those as well. And I'm using the pattern paper from Echo Park, the Fall is in the Air pack that I showed again in that last haul, because they all are just meant to go together. So I die cut the pattern paper with those different dies. And then as I was looking at it, I was like, it needed just something more. So I actually die cut some Prima Gold vellum that I showed months ago. I've used it a couple times in videos, and I still had a bunch of it in my stash, and I thought how pretty that would look. I was just going to use regular vellum, and then I remembered I had this gold vellum, and I was like, oh, with the fall colors and everything, I'm like, that would look just give it that little extra something. So I die cut a piece of that with another one of the Basic Rectangles dies, and then I adhered my little main image there with some foam tape, and then I adhered one of the other panels with foam tape, and then I'm going to adhere this vellum with all of the elements on it to the largest die cut rectangle onto the pattern paper here. And then my card base, I'm using the exact same craft cardstock that I cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm scoring it at 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder. So it's a top folding A2 size card, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to adhere my card front to that, and I use the largest Basic Rectangles dies to die cut that acorn pattern paper, so it's the exact size of an A2 card. And then as a final bit of embellishment, I pulled out some Doodlebug. I had some gold sequins in my stash, so they're like glittering gold, and it just kind of tied in with that gold vellum, and it just gave it that little extra something. And then this whole pile of acorns, that's exactly what I was planning on doing with them, is I wanted to pile them up on the inside of the card. So I just adhered them down with Tombow Monomulti to kind of make them look like they were being, hoarded on the inside of the card and tie in with the sentiment I used on the outside. And then that heart I was going to adhere on the inside, and then decided last minute to just adhere it to the outside of the card. I thought it just worked better that way. And then I had one more acorn and one more heart left over, and rather than just like not using them, I just adhered them to the back of the card. It was just a final little something. So finished all that off, and that finished off my card. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post. I will have the pictures in the blog post, as well as the colors I used of the Polychromos pencils. All that info, so check out the description box below the video if you're interested in that. And then, like I said, I will also have links to a couple more related videos. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, and thumbs upping my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.